I say it this way. We need to get our prospects and customers to fall in trust with us, not fall in love with us. And when they fall in trust, that's where things get real. How you build that trust is just as simple as through active listening, which is a whole exercise. But that to me is the key piece and how I view trust in relation to sales in general, and then obviously to the topic at hand.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Richard Harris. So Richard, I've got on LinkedIn, and I've got 45 different work experiences. So I'm not going to.
I'll explain that.
And half of them are current as various advisor roles and everything. So if it's okay, I'll introduce you as the founder of Harris Consulting Group, because that was at the top. Also founder of Surf and Sales, which is your main podcast. Yeah.
Yes.
I think you have a pop-up podcast, the one that I came on, which is Sales Rants.
Yes.
And then there's, I'm not saying those aren't important, but the one for me which really sticks out as being important is the work you do with Uncrushed and the whole kind of stuff around the mental health in sales report.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is a biggie. And I chatted, I was just saying to you before we press record, I was chatting to Jeff Risley about that the other day. So
great guy.
We could talk all about mental health today. However, what I think it would be fun is, as a guy who clearly cares about sales, about salespeople, about sales done right, about having salespeople doing stuff that's bang up to date, I'd like to get your opinion on the 6 elements of partnering skills, of PQ, partnering intelligence, and how we can apply those, bake them into our sales approach.
All right. Wow, that's deep. I've not even heard of the PQ other than with you. So, and I think in our conversations, but yeah, let's go there. And
as we go through them, I'm confident that each of the
elements.
Stop
interrupting me on your podcast, Fred. Like, it's your podcast, but stop interrupting me.
But remember, I have met you, and once I let you go,
I'm just kidding.
That's me for the next half hour.
I want to. This is how it's going to be, folks. This is the rapport. No, to the mental health stuff, it's super important for those who ever do struggle. Please check out Uncrushed. It's created for the purpose of primarily salespeople, because we've all been crushed by the number. Lots of people, myself and such, sharing their stories. So if someone, you or someone you know, is ever looking for a little bit of help, we've got some resources there. Maybe you just want to read a story so you know you're not alone, because you're not. So please check out uncrushed.org. That being said, I also think this mental health stuff will probably bleed into this other part of the conversation. So it's not, and I don't see mental health and sales EQ and IQ and PQ. I don't see them as very separate. I think they're always there. So just so people understand sort of my rationale as you hear how I do things and think about things, there's a mindset approach to this too. So anyway, I'll shut up, Fred, and I'll give you the mic back.
No, please don't shut up. You're the guest. The point is you should speak. And that's why I did want to go down this route, is because I know that when we start talking about sales done well, with that right mindset, then you can calm down, quieten your mind, know you're doing things right, and be in a better place to perform. So yeah, they absolutely they come together. So PQ, partnering skills. These are the things which a guy called Steve Dent researched and started to validate, verify as things which people who partner well are able to bring into the way that they operate. I looked at these and thought, well, for salespeople, this is how we should be thinking about when we sell, which is why I bring them into my sales approach. So it'd be great to get your opinion on each of these. 6 elements, probably about 5 minutes for each of those. There's a podcast in each of them, basically, but we'll go for about 5 minutes on each of them. How you think salespeople can really use that, how they can get it as their way of thinking. And I always kick off with trust as the first one. Trust as one of the first elements of PQ. Talk to me
Yeah.
about trust in sales.
Yeah. So trust comes from two places. I talk about this a lot. Our job in sales is to reduce the fear, anxiety, and concern a prospect or customer has about making a decision. Hopefully that decision includes us, right? That we're the right thing. That being said, if I've done a really good job and they trust me, then it's super important that I be honest with them. And I do. And it's what I train them to saying, hey, Fred, look, if I'm not the right fit, say so. And likewise, once I know more about you, if I can't help you, I'll tell you who you should talk to. You get so much more out of that one line early in your process or anywhere in your process, but particularly early, than just about anything else you can say. Because our goal as it comes to trust, and then I'll shut up and let you ask me questions. I say it this way. We need to get our prospects and customers to fall in trust with us, not fall in love with us. And when they fall in trust, that's where things get real. How you build that trust is just as simple as through active listening, which is the whole exercise. But that to me is the key piece and how I view trust in relation to sales in general, and then obviously to the topic at hand.
Yeah, it's such a key area. I agree 100%, but there might be people thinking here that, yeah, look, it's okay for you, Per, to sit there with that line about, look, if you're not right, I can find somebody else and then point business in the other direction. But that's not practical. I've got targets, I've got goals I've got to hit. I can't be giving business away. What's your response to that?
Yeah, fire that person. That's my first, like, seriously, because if that salesperson is going to sell somebody something and they're going to become a bad customer, the amount of time, energy, and resources our organization is going to spend with that unhappy customer is wasteful, and time that they can't get back to spend on the customers to get them to trust us, to get them to eventually love us, and fall in trust with us. So yeah, I get rid of that salesperson in a heartbeat. That doesn't mean I'm unaware of someone's goals. That doesn't mean I'm not supportive to someone making their livelihood. Now, here's the other part. If I have a sales team member who thinks that way, maybe 49% of that is actually on the sales rep. The other 51% comes to the sales leader who hasn't spent time training and coaching and teaching and sitting beside them and walking the walk and talking the talk and being on sales calls and saying it so that they can see that it works and modeling the right behavior. So it's not just on the sales rep, as flippant as I was at the beginning of this conversation. It's also on the sales leader too.
Yeah. And the important thing you say there is that see that it works, because customers will still sense this, won't they? They'll get this feeling of, I think this guy's leading me up the garden path here. I'm not sure this is right. And they're kind of forcing me into their little box because it's suiting them.
Yeah. You're not, in fact, what's happening there is you're not reducing the risk that your prospects and customer feels in making the decision. That's what we're doing. Our job is to reduce the risk people feel in making the decision, and hopefully it's us. If it's not us, maybe it's okay to say, Fred, look, it sounds like we're not the right fit. Here's who you should talk to. And Fred, just out of curiosity, anybody else you know in your space and world that would benefit from what I do? Maybe it's the place for you to ask for a referral. You've offered a referral. You've been massively trustworthy. You've earned the right, as I like to say, to ask for a referral back. Even if Fred says, no, I can't think of someone, the amount of karma that is built, the amount of trust that person will come to you next time when they do need you. Or maybe you change jobs and you can reach out to them and say, Fred, I've changed my roles. I've got this in front of you. If you don't remember, I told you we weren't the right fit. And since you're here, I hope that worked out. Can we talk about this? So that's the long tail.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, earn the right. I know that's one of your favorites. Which I subscribe very much to that one too. So okay, let's move on. And we're kind of going through sequentially because we can only talk sequentially, but all of these things come together. And I think we're already touching on the next one, which is having this win-win focus. You kind of just mentioned it, haven't you, when you talked about the kind of offer and receive? But talk to me a little bit more, something broader about the win-win focus.
So this is a Richardism. It's not so much a win-win focus for me as much as what do I win? Now, if Fred walks away from the conversation feeling like he's won and that's my job, then that's good, right? Meaning, if my win is that I built trust and I didn't get the business, then that's a win. Now, generally speaking, Fred gets a win out of that. Believe me, there are times where the win for me is to just turn down the business because I don't want that customer, right? Like, I don't need to chase bad customers. Now, Fred might not see that as a win. Maybe he does. I don't know. So I can't necessarily say it's always a win-win. I suppose you could spin it that it eventually becomes a win-win for Fred, because he can then go find the person he wants to work with or who wants to work with him. So, and believe me, there's not a lot of times where I turn down business. And I think, Fred, you and I are in that unique consulting world where when people come to us, they're already open-minded to change, right? For me, it's the technical founder moving from founder-led sales into real sales where they hire a team that sometimes I won't take that business because the founder says they want to let go, but they really can't. And I can already spot it, and I explain it to them, and I tell them, and I say, look, go shop around, see if you can find somebody else. And, if you decide you want to come back with an open mind, I'll do it. That's a win for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that technical founder sees it as a win. I hope they do. So I try not to, I feel like when I say win-win, and this is a Richard thing, when I hear that phrase, one, I feel like it's just overused. So maybe that's my resistance to it.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing is that it doesn't mean when I say I don't like that phrase, it doesn't mean I don't put my customer or prospect first. I always do. And I always put them first by saying, we're not a good fit. And here's why. I do business this way. You want to do it that way.
Yeah.
That is putting them first. Contrary to popular belief, that's putting them first because they don't want to be frustrated either. So.
No, I like it. I'm so pleased that you took that angle on it as well. I think we do speak, sales trainers in general, we speak a lot about, the customer's got to, get their win and we've got to do good for them and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like we've got to take that for written. That side of either make sure that it is right for you, whether that being that you're turning stuff down or saying to the customer and communicating what the win is for you, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to do that. Don't expect it to be a mind reader. That's probably the bit that salespeople could be working on more to really make that phrase come alive.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it is a bit overused. But
cool.
Okay. So we come at that one from the same angle, which is cool. The next element we just want to have a little look at is to have this comfort with interdependence. Interdependence.
What does that word mean? Do I need to go Google it?
Well, independence is when you're in it for yourself.
I went to the University of Arizona where I made sure that I did not let college get in the way of my education. So feel free
I was talking about uni to somebody else today as well about the things we got from it. I think about number 6 on the list was education, actually, to be fair. So I mean, lots of salespeople go with this independent lone wolf type behavior. We know that doesn't really work. Interdependence. I mean, my shorthand for this is to kind of get people thinking around, well, my success as a salesperson is your success as the customer. That's how I think it pans out. And so doing everything with that in mind makes the way that we sell what we do far more powerful. What are your thoughts on that?
I guess I'm confused in the difference between interdependence and what you just described and the win-win we were just talking about, because that feels like the same thing.
It's very close. They're very close. Very close.
So Can you rephrase interdependence for me? Because I'm stuck.
Yeah, no, so interdependence. So as I say, the way I look at it is that my success is your success. Yeah, which is slightly different in the win-win is just establishing that we get mutual benefit and we know what it is. When we become interdependent, this for me, the way it manifests will be that it's to do with control. And rather than me try to control everything and I'm going to be doing everything, I'm happy that you're going to be doing your part of the deal and bringing your team into play. I will
Got it.
also be man enough, if that's the right word, to say, well, I've got a team here and they're going to have to come in and they're going to do their bits. And I'm
Yeah.
not sat at the center of the bow tie, the be all and end all of the whole sale, because I'm the salesperson with my account. I mean, I just think that's a little bit old fashioned personally.
Yeah. Now I understand. Now I lost my thought. My wife just called me in the middle of the podcast. So hold on.
And you paid more attention to her because you understand interdependence.
Yeah. So
What a cracking example.
Yeah. So
we could have teed it up better.
and it could be, yes, I do have a team and they have a team. I get that piece. I think where I'm stuck is because I've been doing it as a solopreneur for so long. I quote unquote haven't had a team. But I teach sort of this team selling aspect, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a really important piece. And the control piece that you were talking about, that's where I was going. The control piece was you can't really control people, but you can control a process. And so the way as I've interpreted interdependence, and someone can call me out. Can I curse on this show?
You can do what you want on the show.
Okay. Yeah. If someone can call me out on my if I sound like it's bullshit, is that, the goal. Oh, fuck, I lost my thought again. Holy shit, what's going on? Control and process. You can only control process, you can't control people. What that for me means is that there is no such thing as a buyer's journey. There's zero thing as a buyer's journey. There's only the seller's journey. And what matters is the buyer's experience through the seller's journey. So if you think about it, someone lands on your website, starts looking around, poking around. If they have a bad experience, they're gone. It's not because they're on this journey. Sure, they're on this mindset of curiosity. Maybe there's buyer's curiosity, but that's about as far as it goes. If I create a good process, then that interdependence works both ways between getting them to go through my process in a humanity-driven way, earning the right to ask questions, asking the right questions, making sure that I'm not giving up, my 5 greatest assets for nothing in return, and making sure they have an amazing experience. You go to a restaurant, nobody cares. What was your journey to the restaurant like? No, they want to know about the experience. Fred, how was it? Was the food any good? Was the service? How was the ambiance? It's the experience. It's not the journey. So if I've understood interdependence, that's my take on it. And if not, pass and let's go to the next topic.
No, the point of this is that these things will, I've done quite a few of these interviews with different people and what it means to them. And that's the whole point of why I'm asking you. It's like, what is that bringing to mind? So same with the next element, where the word I use now, because it's the one that we tend to talk about more, is transparency. Steve Dent in the original PQ, he talks about self-disclosure and feedback. So it's about giving bits of information about yourself. Again, we're almost back to that, not expecting the customer to be a mind reader, but also giving the customer feedback about themselves. Again, I'd like to hear how that comes to life in.
So I hate that word transparency.
Self-disclosure feedback, then let's keep it as that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I might, again, depending on the context, and I might be saying the same thing. So I might add the word mentoring. So oftentimes our prospects and customers, one, don't know their own pain. They think they do. Sometimes they don't even know how to buy the product or service that we sell. If someone comes to us for sales training and advisory, and it's the first time they've ever bought it, they don't know how to buy it. Right. For example, and I'll give you an example. Every time, I don't know if this happens to you, but sales trainer, like, always gets sent to the CFO or whatever. Oh, we want a discount. I just had this conversation. Look, my CFO is going to ask for a discount. He knows it's the end of the year, and he knows that, salespeople love the discount. And my response is, well, one, aren't you hiring me to teach your sales team how not to do that? Two, and this is the line I say all the time, like, write this down, people. Our pricing is fair based on market conditions. Nobody knows how to respond to that. Now, if your pricing is too high, then you're not paying attention to market conditions. If it's a highly competitive space and you're dealing with, some CFO who's just, they're willing to, let me rephrase that, almost a commodity space, and you can't differentiate yourself from the others, it's harder for you to walk away doing what I just said. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, for me, and so they don't know how, so I have to mentor them. I'm not calling, I'll probably say with a slightly less snarky tone than you're hearing here. I might say, Fred, I appreciate you asking for a discount. I hear it all the time. We've done our research, and we feel that, our commercial terms are fair based on what the market rate will support. How would you like to proceed?
Nice.
No CFO, every CFO I ever hear stumbles like a first-time sales rep every time I say it, because they've been conditioned to think they're so much smarter, so much wiser. And it's great, and it's fun to watch them squirm. Same phrase I use with ROI, but we'll get into that another time.
Yeah, we will. The other element to this, which I think is quite interesting, and again, love your opinion on it, is that we might be further down the line. We're starting to work with a customer. We're getting stuck into a project, say. We've said we're going to do some stuff. They said they're going to do some stuff. They're not doing what they've said.
Yeah,
we've got to tell them that, haven't we? And say, hey,
yeah,
come on. We've said we're going to do this stuff together to get us to this end point. You're not doing your part. I know some salespeople will shy away from that. Oh no, I can't say that to the customer, can I?
Yeah, but you can, and you've earned the right.
And you must.
Now the question becomes, how do you say it with a respectful tone? And so there's a couple things I do way early. I teach a thing called a respect contract. You can go Google it, about how I introduce calls about, we're always, if it's not a good fit, you tell me, like, here's our goals and parameters, let's, all that stuff. And I move away from that phrase of, transparency and, take my sales hat off and all that bullshit that we hear. So it's a very genuine and authentic way of doing that. But for me, the way to respond to that person is to say, hey, Fred, when we spoke, you said you were going to get these things done by this date because you wanted to launch by here or start here. Can you let me know what's going on? Can you give me a status update? I want to stay on top of it so nothing slips through the cracks, but I don't need to, hound you if something's changed within your organization. That's how you say it.
Yeah.
That last line is the hardest line for a sales rep, because we don't want to hear no. In fact, I do. I don't want to chase maybes. Nothing will exhaust the spirit and will of a salesperson than chasing a maybe. I'll guarantee you, every salesperson listening to this call, if I said, how many people have deals in your pipeline that are 2x your average sales cycle, every single person's raising their hand. Don't tell me you don't. I even have them. And I have this theory. If it's more than double your sales cycle, you should kill it. Stop using your pipeline as a tickler to remember to call people, because there's nothing more exhausting than looking at a pipeline that's empty with 20 deals in it. It's so demoralizing and depressing. So get rid of that stuff. Yes, I know your bosses are going to say, what happened to all these 15 deals? I thought they were legit. Well, so did I, but they're not. They're ghosting. So I'm still working on them, but I'm pulling from the pipeline because I know you want an accurate forecast. So, sure.
What about a mutual action plan or implementation plan, outcome enablement plan? That's a closed plan. I wouldn't call it that either.
Yeah.
Those things where saying, look, these are the things that we're going to do. You're going to do this. I'm going to do this. This is going to get us there. Would you advocate using those as a way of sort of helping with that kind of conversation?
Absolutely. Like, if after every email, after every call I have with a prospect or client, they get an email Subject line, and the email says, "Hey, Fred, here's the notes from our conversation. Please let me know if I missed anything. Next steps." Boom, boom, boom. Richard will do this. So-and-so will do this. So-and-so will do this. And I'll have completion dates. I might, if I'm the rep, turn around and say, "Hey, Fred, I know you're supposed to have this part completed by tomorrow. Just wanted to see if you're still on track as it affects our ability to move forward. If something's delayed, please let me know." Those are you've earned the right to ask all those questions. They're asking you to commit resources. They're asking you to commit time. They're asking you to do things. It's fair for you to expect something back, and it's fair for you to stay on top of it. And by the way, I was talking earlier, you can't control people. You can control the process. You can influence people. What person who's busy, is buying something, which is not their primary job in regular day-to-day, is going to be angry if you send a polite message that said, "Hey, I'm just making sure things are going forward so nothing slips through the cracks. If you need anything, let me know." Like, what prospects, like how great is that? They're like, "Oh, thanks for helping me make sure I don't forget this."
I'd
You
say
may
a part.
know. Sorry, go ahead, Fred.
No, I'd say it's part of the value.
Yeah,
You're the sort of person I want to work with.
And that's the part where they fall in trust with you. That's where you're different than every other sales rep. That's where you're not saying, "Hey, just checking in to see what's going on." No. "Hey, Fred, I want to see if you've completed this. Tomorrow is the completion date. If you're delayed, let me know, because it may affect all of our timelines."
Yeah. Yeah. The plan is in place because you've come into my life and helped me think about some stuff that I was trying to make sense of. I think that's really cool. You've set out the things I've got to do. Whilst the rest of my busy life is going on, you're giving me the little nudges to help me get the stuff that you help me think about. I think you're brilliant. Please carry on. I mean, spin it and start thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. Look, sound different than every other sales rep they talk to.
Yeah.
Even if you're in a highly commoditized space, these little things are the difference. It's the experience they feel. Because I'd be willing to bet most of your customers aren't getting those emails. I worked with a Fortune 5 company last year in 2021. Their post-meeting emails, their post-meeting emails were terrible, and they didn't know how to stay on top of shit. And it was, horrible. So anyway, now I trained them. About a third of them started doing it, which is good. So,
It's a good strike rate.
but again, I can't control people. I can give them a process.
Yeah, the other 2/3 will start to follow when they see what's happening to the third and why they're getting more success. Because certainly when stuff's a bit more commoditized, when it's very samey, the stuff that you're selling to other people, you become the differentiator, don't you? You're the one that you can actually alter the whole experience. It's around
There's a
you.
reason. Look, I fully respect people who want to go shop at Walmart because they need to save the money. It's a little bit cheaper there. I get it. I also respect the people who want to go to the fancy meat market because they've worked hard and they can afford that. I don't look down upon either one, right? Like, that's just the way it is. Like, you have to meet your prospects and your customers in their mindset where they are and seek to understand.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. So moving on, this is one that we discussed when we first had a chat. The next one, which is about being comfortable with change. So I think I chatted more about that one when I was at your place. You're at my place now, so you get to talk about comfort with change.
Yeah. We're all uncomfortable with change. It's interesting. I'm very comfortable with change in my business life because I know that's how business works. And I also understand that prospects have to be willing to change, right? This goes back to that, I got to get them to fall in trust with us, right? We have to get them to fall in trust with us. On the flip side, going to the mental health shit, right? Change is a lot harder, right? We create these belief systems. And for me, I'm a big fan of therapy, and I have ADHD, and I talk about it, and depression, and I talk about it, and I take my meds, and I see my therapist. And, I have my biggest issue right now is food and sort of cutting it out. So I'm working on the changes. They're not easy. The greatest change the greatest moment of change and success in my mind will occur when we stop believing the lies we tell ourselves internally. When we stop believing the lies we tell ourselves and try something different. Now, maybe that lie does become a truth because we tried something different a few times and it didn't work. Okay, I'll buy that. But, you know, the smoking of hopium that something will get better doesn't work. And for me, it's harder in my personal life and my business life because I mean, you and I, you know, we everybody who comes to us is seeking change, right? Everybody we talk to is seeking change. Anyway, so that's, you know, that's how I view it. It's easier in some parts of the world, in some parts of my world than others.
They're seeking change. We tell them how to, and then they're not anymore because they don't like it because it sounds like our work. Yep. But you know, on the serious point around the mental health thing, do you find then that understanding yourself better and how you function and how you think has made you a better salesperson, better sales trainer,
100%.
better at what you do?
So I talk about it all the time. My entire sales philosophy, my sales methodology, NEAT, selling NEAT, is built upon what I learned in therapy. Hugely built around that. And then applying a business acumen to it. And again, I'm really good at it in the business world because I practice it every day. And therefore I'm conscious of it in my personal world. I can see it, I can coach to it, I can, sometimes, my wife will rightfully tell me that I'm trying to therapize her, which is not a husband's job or a spouse's job, I should say. So anyhow, so that's the answer.
Yeah. It's a big thing, isn't it? Get yourself sorted before you're trying to sort other people, and just be curious about this stuff. No, we could go on, but look at Uncrushed is what we're saying here. Definitely.
I will say this. There are plenty of salespeople who are very good at following the process and the methodology, and because they just know it works out of pattern recognition. And it doesn't mean that they can't sell if they haven't done their own internal audit and made changes. I want to make sure people understand that. And believe me, there's also plenty of people who are just happy. They're fine. Like they don't struggle as much with the mental health stuff as others. So I want to make sure that, I'm not preaching, oh, you only got to do this until you do your therapy. Like, no, there are plenty of very successful humans, sales, marketing, business, whatever it is, engineers, IT, doctors, lawyers, who are very successful, and they haven't struggled quite so hard with the mental health. And for me, I was like that early. I just kept following the process. But then when I did the deep discovery on myself, it helped me understand how to do better, deeper discovery with my prospects, because every purchase is an emotional purchase. Pricing is always an emotion. I'll pause there, but I want to make sure I wasn't like saying, oh, you got to go do your therapy kind of stuff.
It didn't come across as that. But it's good that you underline that. Yeah, you can very much be successful around it. But if you need that help, or you feel, get yourself sorted, I think both of us would underline that from personal experience. Okay. So the last element, or the sixth part of PQ, is future orientation. So again, the way I kind of see that is that it's about, if we're working with customers, we're collaborating with them, we're understanding, what are we aiming towards, what goals have we got that we're going to achieve together, so what vision, how can we drive towards it, make decisions based on that.
Yeah.
What would you add into that?
Again, this is something I talk about a lot. Tactically, it happens in the demo, right? Because you're talking in a hypothetical future state, right? They're talking, when you're in sales and you're talking to your prospects and customers, their hope is that something will be better than the current version. Now, sometimes they're just kicking tires to make sure the current version is good enough, or better than what you have. And so for me, it's really important that you talk about that, and sort of say, okay, It's like going through the demo. I'm going to get really tactical. Go through the demo. Worst question someone ever asked in sales is, so Fred, does that make sense? Because guess what? You're going to get false positives. They're going to say yes, might be true, but a lot of times they don't even know. It's a closed-ended question, which I don't like. So for me, to this future mind that you're talking about, hey, Fred, I'm going to pause here. How does this compare to what you're currently doing? How does this compare to what else you've seen in the marketplace? How much better or worse, Fred? Hey, Fred, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning it blows away what you're currently doing. Where are we? And whatever number Fred gives me, I say, great. What's the difference between a 7 and a 10 then, Fred? Because that's what I need to know. So those are all those little questions that to me are way better than does that make sense? Because you are talking about a future state and you've got to get into their mind and understand what they're thinking.
Yeah.
So
the brain needs contrast, doesn't it? The brain needs to make comparison for it to be
I
able to
love
make
what you
decisions.
hold on,
That's what we've got to do.
say that the brain needs contrast.
I
That's
borrowed that from Moeed Amin.
that is such a great line. The brain, who said it?
Moeed Amin is a neuroscientist that I talk to quite a lot because he's a very clever bloke. He's a sales trainer as well. I was going to say like us, but he's clearly a lot cleverer because he does all stuff like that. No, and he does talk.
So I'm just writing it down because that's really, really, really good.
The brain needs contrast.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing by asking those questions. Does it make sense? No, but I'm not going to say because I don't want to appear thick. Whereas, so how does that look compared to? I now have to think. Actually, it looks way better. Cool. I'm moving towards that more. So,
great.
Yeah, I think he refers to us as being comparison machines. That's what we are. Humans are comparison machines. So, yeah, cool. I mean, it's great. A tactical answer is a good answer. You know, if people could take that snippet away and start to apply it, then happy days. So there we go. We have very quickly. This could easily have been a 6-hour podcast, couldn't it? We could have an hour easily on each of those elements. But I love the way that we sort of grabbed those, had a little think about them, put something into each of those. How PQ, partnering skills, using that very deliberately in the way that we sell. Sounds like it's very much the stuff that you're training. You don't label it PQ, but it's underneath all that. I call it as PQ because I came across it, but
here's the deal. Nothing in sales has changed since Mesopotamia. We all just try to come up with different trademarks. That's it.
We like a little model. We want to hang our stuff around it. You have the need framework. I have the value framework. But
exactly, nothing's changed. We just have different languages to say the same shit, and it works. And it's not in a manipulative way. It's like that. By the way, there's so many sales trainers out there, and there's so much business, right? Yeah. Occasionally, I lose something, but it's probably the right thing to lose. So that's the way it is.
So somebody's made that mental comparison and thought, actually, no, I'm slightly better with that. Yeah. Well, great, because then you'll be happier as a customer ultimately. So superb. So where can people get in contact with you, Richard? I know we mentioned it a couple of times, but it's always good to put it at the end of the session.
This is the shocking part. Write this down or rewind it. 415-596 9149 415-596-9149. My real cell phone number, the same cell phone that my wife just called on. So that is my legit number. If you call or text, please tell me that you're coming from Fred and his podcast, because otherwise I probably won't respond to ghost text. So that's a way. You can get me at LinkedIn, Richard Harris. I'm the one with the little trademark by my name. No, you cannot trademark your name. It's a hack. And you can always find me at theharrisconsultinggroup.com.
There was a famous actor called Richard Harris. Did you trademark it after he died?
No, you can't trademark the name, actually. And it's funny because I learned this 10 or 11 years ago. There was a guy who'd had it on his LinkedIn profile. I'm like, oh, can I steal that? Can I borrow that? Do you mind? He's like, yeah, go for it. And now all of a sudden everybody's got fucking emojis in their thing because it's like, oh, I can tell it's a bot. I'm like, well, yeah, but okay, if that's the only reason you're doing it, then okay, I guess. But I do it because I liked it and I thought it was funny. So
That's the best reason for doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, isn't it?
totally. Yeah.
Excellent. Phone number. People can get in contact with you directly.
Yes.
Excellent. And then LinkedIn, call that podcast. And Richard, thank you so much for coming on. Good fun again. Good fun again.
Yeah, this is awesome,
And
Fred. We've gotten to know each other quite well in the last 3 weeks, so it's been really fun just getting to know you and hang out with you. And I look forward to hopefully one day in real life and raising a pint, as you say.
I actually I have an eye on this on the sales and surf surf and
Yeah,
sales.
you
Sorry.
need to come to Surf and yeah. For those who don't know, if you haven't heard of Surf and Sales, come to us. Check it out, surfandsales.com. Got a session in May 23. Got another session, 2 sessions in November coming out, and come to Costa Rica, spend 4 or 5 days with people, hang out, do a little bit of sales and business and mindset growth, and the rest of the time you're just talking to maybe 15, 20 people over 3 or 4 days, like in a beautiful location. So yeah, check it out. So
There we go.
Fred, I'm
Great
gonna
stuff,
go
sir.
to the close. Fred, pull out your credit card right now. Go to surfandsales.com, put down your deposit. Come on, do it. I'm going for the close right now.
We were
Come on.
doing so well about being modern, collaborative, ethical salespeople.
Yeah, there's nothing unethical about what I did. Like that's like I got to go for the close. Like
Superb, mate. Superb. I'll
yeah,
look forward to talking to you again soon.
yeah. Apparently, he didn't pull out his credit card, people. So I'm a terrible sales trainer. So maybe this whole episode's now worthless. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right, Fred.
Take care.
Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.